Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We start off focusing on the state of the economy. Dr. Teriba joins us now. He's a CEO, Economic Associate. Thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's start off with this news we see on the front pages of some papers where 15 states are reported to be going bankrupt. They list the states. They even got a table about all of this. But is this a surprise to you? Because we've been focusing on states in terms of what they need to do, how they should get themselves out of this. But today, 15 of them are said to be going bankrupt.
Well, an individual can go bankrupt. A company can go bankrupt. States can't go bankrupt. Being states. So what you have, they can have fiscal crisis, but the Federation of Nigeria has 3 tiers. They have the federal government, they have the state government, they have the local government. If any of the 3 tiers is declared bankrupt, it means the Federation of Nigeria is bankrupt. So I think it's just a lag in the response of the government to whatever fiscal situation they are facing. Being sovereigns, they can't be bankrupt.
So the way it is, if one is ill, the whole body is ill. So
yes,
we can't say
you can't say a local government is bankrupt or a state is bankrupt, unless the Federation of Nigeria is bankrupt. No state can be bankrupt.
Well, let's start from the first that happened when they got the bailout for analysts like yourself and economists like yourself. Some even went ahead to predict what we're seeing now by saying that, wait a minute, this bailout will not solve what most of those states were going through.
I actually think bailout is a very wrong term to use about the relationship between different tiers of a single federation. Another country can bail you out. You can bail a company out. But you can't say that Nigerian states are being bailed out. You'll be using the term very loosely. If the government of Nigeria has any problem funding any of its tiers, it's not bailout. You are funding government. That's as simple as that. So the sooner this is dealt with, by the government, there's really no distinction. The Constitution, tells you this is exclusive legislative list, this is a concurrent legislative list. That's where the difference comes. Otherwise, the government of Nigeria is the government of Nigeria, the state, local government.
When you say, as soon as the government deals with this,
yes.
What exactly do you mean? Because this dichotomy between going bankrupt and not going bankrupt is tied to the internally generated revenues. It's, according to that report, it's believed that those 15 states have internally generated revenue of less than 10% of their allocation monthly from the federation account.
It's not about internally generated revenue or centrally allocated revenue. Last year, ahead of the election, when some states had 34 local government areas occupied, why didn't you declare that particular state has been taken? It's not a state. Nigeria is Nigeria. Nigeria is an indivisible entity. If arrangements are made by the Constitution to simplify how activities are funded, that does not mean you can disown any of the states. The government of Nigeria has to look for a way of dealing with the shortfall in funding for any of the states without denigrating any state.
Not trying to denigrate any state. Should any state exist if it cannot be self-sufficient?
Oh, what will you do to the state if it cannot fund itself? What will you do? Merge it with another or something, or what, or scrap it. You have to fund the states. Well, just in the same way as you have to go and fight insurgents if they infiltrate any state. So you can't say it's the problem of the state. You have to fund the state.
From the, sorry, Nyota, now listen to you say all of this, it would mean some kind of laid-back attitude for some states. Well, Dr. Teriba has said, well, it's the business of the federal government, whether we like
It's
it
not
or
the
not.
federal government.
No,
the government of Nigeria.
The government of Nigeria, it will talk about the center. It will talk about the center. So,
those are just for administrative convenience. You know, all those distinctions.
That is likely to send that kind of wrong signal to states to just sit idly by and watch things go.
In much the same way as, for example, in the European Union, they bail out member countries. You're even talking of sovereigns, you're talking of different countries. Because if you fail to bail them out, their problem is going to spill over to your country. You know, so I believe that the government should just be more proactive in dealing with these issues and avoid a situation where, you know, misleading headlines like this.
No, but what happens when the government wants to do that, and then the conditions that have been outlined, the simple conditions that the state cannot meet those conditions? Do you used to overlook those and then just centrally allocate those revenue to them?
Right. I mean, we probably are, you know, talking about the different issues. If we are declaring, you know, some states bankrupt, we are saying that they cannot find enough resources to meet all their obligations. Right? So I do not know what portion has been covered by the arrangements and the conditions around which you are referring to. But the key issue is that whatever, it could be the federal government that is facing difficulty, it could be the local government, it could be states, but whichever they are, issues should have been dealt with before now. Because whether anyone likes it or not, those issues have to be dealt with. And it is best they are dealt with in a proactive manner.
But the first time out, when those funds were given to them to see how they could meet with the obligations, that was done. And then you had an ICPC report that it actually said, look, some of the states actually lied that they were owing salaries. They were not. And that's a report which was widely circulated by the ICPC. Yet, government is still interested in ensuring that things go properly in different states. And then they set another condition, saying, well, no problems. If you need to access this fund, I think they say it's at 9% loan facility. So if that were to be the case, they outline some basic yardstick that these states have got to meet. Publish your books, let the people see that you're transparent, ensure that things go right. And it's amazing that, I think they say just about 5 states that met those conditions. So what do you do in that case if those states are not willing to help themselves?
Right. These conditions became public only in the last 2 or 3 months, right? I'm not sure.
No, there was a recent one, I think, this month.
This month?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it takes time, you know, for you know, to get convergence. You can't issue a list of conditions today and then come out the week after and say they haven't met the conditions, you know. You have to give some time, you know, for states to. I am not sure that it is in the best interest of anyone that these issues that ought to have been, you know, dealt with well ahead of time with enough lead to accommodate the necessary lags, you know, that would be required for issues to be communicated and for the parties to comply with them, you know, rather than all those issues that should be matters for intergovernmental discussion becoming issues for the general public to debate. The truth is that I'm not privy to the details of which state is compliant, of which state is not compliant. All that I have heard about, you know, the entire relationship between the federal government and the state governments are from news. Yeah, so I don't know. But you can't have a situation, you can't declare states bankrupt, you know.
For this kind of situation, even though you continue to insist you can't declare a state bankrupt, there have been calls for restructuring of Nigeria. Some have talked about restructuring the economic structure of the country, rearranging it and all of that. What's your take on that?
That's a very, very long shot. Nigeria, as we have it today, is ruled by the 1999 Constitution, which stipulates you have a federal government, you have 36 states, you have 774 local government areas and the federal capital territory. That's it. So what structure? There's no, you are not, if you ask 100 people in the structure, you get 100 responses. So until that constitution is renegotiated, and people can express whatever opinion.
Restructuring in terms of the economy. But right now we have a situation where the federal government gets all the revenue and then shares it monthly to the state and the local government.
As they have done since 1999.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, those calling for a restructuring of the state of the nation's economy,
yes,
are talking about divulging some of the parts, like the concurrent list and the exclusive list and all that, so that the states and the local government can also begin to generate some revenue from some other means besides oil.
Yeah, that's because the price of oil has declined.
But do you think if that happens, it will make any difference?
So while the price of oil was up, everything was okay. Everybody got enough. Now that look for a way of dealing with the issue. The issue is that the revenue has dropped, and you need to get additional sources of revenue. You need to make the states work rather than beginning to talk about restructuring because you're broke for 1 quarter or you're broke for 2 quarters. It's not called for restructuring.
So what's the way out of this? Because it looks like a mess.
It is a mess. It's not that it looks like a mess. That's the fall in the price of oil is pushing Nigeria into a situation in which we can't generate enough exports to cover imports. And this is beginning to hurt the economy. Is hurting all the the oil sector has declined because of the decline in the price of oil. Non-oil sectors are declining because they can't get access to forex, because the forex, our main source of forex is oil. We need not be in this situation. We are talking our government revenue has totally collapsed. GDP in the first quarter of the year declined, didn't grow at all. We didn't have to get to this situation in which a current account crisis, makes the economy to grind to a halt. This time is different from the previous times when we had current account crisis. In the 80s, when we had this current account crisis, it met a capital account crisis on ground. We had external debt that we couldn't service. The global environment was under a debt burden as well. So your income fell, you were under pressure to come and pay debt, you can't find the money to pay the debt. There was nobody who can lend you money. You can't expect the investment to come in a debt-ridden international environment. This time is different. The only thing that's come down is the price of oil. And I'm not even talking about trying to generate export income now. The global environment is liquid. And Nigeria's peers, are getting record inflow of foreign investments. Some of them also get record inflow of remittances from their own nationals. Right. Doesn't Nigeria have citizens in diaspora?
We'll come back and look at all of those issues. Yeah. Why are we not benefiting from that liquidity, as you've spoken about? Join us again.